I have seen the light. Excellent. We are recording. Well, how's everybody doing this morning? Everybody doing good? Very good, very good. I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. My name is Eddie Tapia. With me is Tika Hicks. We are your instructors for creative presentation. And yeah, so before I get started, a very important question to ask you guys and gals. House cleaning rules. Delta. Yes, that's never fun. That is never fun. All right, sorry, I digress. A very important question to ask all of you. Is everybody paying attention? Okay, cool. All right, so huddle up. So my question is this: how many of you have a tattoo? How many of you guys have a tattoo? Oh my goodness! Wow, I see quite a number. A few. Don't worry, I'm not judging. Wish I had one. Now, here's the thing. I'm sure that a number of us, when we were getting our first tattoo, we thought about it, right? We thought about it for a while, like, what do I want to get? Where do I want to get it? And that kind of deal. Well, I have a couple myself, and I could tell you one thing. There's something about when I turned 18, when I was just a wee lad, and I turned 18, there's something about turning 18. It's like that song, Eddie waited till he finished high school. He finished high school and got a tattoo, went to LA, whatever. Anyway, I didn't go to LA, but I went to a tattoo parlor. And anywho, back in the day, that was some kind of like big deal. Like, tattoos back in the day were a huge deal. Hang on one second, everyone. Okay, sorry. Anywho, now, like, so many people have them. One morning when I was 18, and I went to a tattoo parlor with my best friend. A scrawny little Edward. And I just approached and lo and behold, back then, my luck, when I walked into the tattoo parlor, the tattoo artists were like 6'4" Harley dudes, so they were very intimidating. I walk up to the guy and I ask them the single most redundant question they probably get asked every single day in their shop. What do you guys think it is? What do you think they get asked all the time? Anyway, hang on one second. How does it feel? Anyway, so what I wrote in the chat box to those of us who might be experiencing audio issues, audio interruptions, that's not uncommon. Anywho, the recording is usually very recording. Sometimes it's just an internet thing. An internet connection might not be strong enough. But anywho, I asked this guy, "Does it hurt?" And he looks at me just with this kind of grin where you could tell he wanted to laugh, but he didn't. Probably lose my business. So he looks at me. I'll try to do the impression. I can't really do it very well, but I'll do my best. So he looks at me and he's like, well, the coloring kind of feels like a cat scratch, and the outline feels like an eagle. Yes, I've been scratched by a cat before. Eagle Claw, not so much, but anywho, doesn't sound so bad. So I'm like, all right, hook me up. Everything sounds good. So it doesn't help, drill or whatever you wanted to call it. It just sounds like one of those torture devices that you hear and see in a lot of horror movies. So he starts drilling away at my flesh, and I'm thinking everything's going all right until I look at my best friend, and he just has this look of. And he goes, dude, you should look at your face. And I look at my face in the mirror, and my face, no lie, is like dripping sweat, blood red. No lie, I don't care what anybody says. Tattoos are not pain free. They are pain on like the side of my back. So I thought it'd be clever, to hide it from my folks at the time, but no such luck. No such luck. But anyway, 3 hours later, or 3 hours later, um, good, and it was not cheap, but anyway, I got myself tattooed. So I go home thinking everything's cool. I'm sly. No, my parents will never catch it. But there's something about Latin moms. Latin moms have this like six or oh my god, it's so annoying. She must have like X-ray vision. So I'm walking out the door fully clothed, no lie. And she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I gotta go. I'm out of here." She's like, "What is that under your shirt?" I'm Latin as well. So anyway, I'm like, she sees the tattoo, and oh my god, you would think that I just murdered somebody. And it's a huge to do at the Tapia household. My mom and dad freak out, and they're like, "You're never gonna amount to." Gosh. But yeah, mom always knows exactly. Yes, there's something about it, but anyway, they were like determined to take me to a surgeon and have it like surgically removed. And what I hear is, anyway, some time passed, and they finally became accustomed to it. And yeah, so anyway, the reason why I tell you that story is because I wanted to have like an icebreaker with you guys. And icebreakers are very important during trying to establish common ground with your audience. It's never a good idea to just jump right in to your speech, always establish some kind of like, hey, I'm human, I like games. And I'm a big fat nerd, and I have some tattoos, and anyway, here this is me. I'm not just some robot. But yeah, so icebreakers can be told and shy away from jokes because the expression hit or miss. That I would say they're even beyond that. Jokes can be disastrous. they could they could be executed, in a completely wrong story. And that's how I want you guys to think about presentations, like you're telling a story. Because when you're sharing something with a buddy, with a friend, you're telling them about some video game that you just discovered. You're going to be all psyched about it, right? You're going to have their attendance more. So yeah, I want you to think about that. Don't think about you know anything else. You're telling a story. And so as most stories do, they have their beginning, they have their finale. Well, most good stories do. So at the end of your story, you want to always finish strong. You want to open strong, finish strong, and you want it to be memorable, right? Just reading some of these comments in the chat box. I don't want to. The way this control panel is set up, sometimes these chat comments come at me a little bit fast. So if I miss a question, if you guys ask a question and I miss it, please don't. It's not because I'm. If you did ask a question that I didn't answer, please just send me an email or message me on the classroom site. That's always the, a good way to reach us. Well, anyhow, yes, I got some tats. I would get my arms covered, I always thought that looked kind of neat, but I got a kid now. And I have to be responsible. There's no milk. Sorry there's not no money for shoes. I had to get my sleeves done, right? Sleeves is the dream. Exactly. Because I want my first one to be a half sleeve. Ooh, yeah. Our This is us. Tika Hicks is in the chat box. She's going to do her best to answer any questions as well. She's going to be kind of talking to you guys a little bit about the assignments that are due this week as well. 3 kids. Wow. My 8-year-old counts as 2. Everyone's always like, "When are you guys going to have another?" I'm like, "Nope. This is 2 for us. He is our universe." And there's never a dull moment in the Tapia house. Yeah. You can email us. You can full of Nerf wars and wrestling. Yes. Oh, totally, Tyler. We still have ours. She is her name is Trinity. Actually, we named her after the film The Matrix. Mind you, I said Matrix, not Matrix Part 2 or 3. Because in my opinion, the second and the third movies didn't happen. Anyway, stop distracting me. Information, as I said, I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about course concepts, how we should kind of approach this. Nicholas, yes, it's a lot like Star Wars episode 4, 5, and 6. We don't speak. We want to see Eddie get upset. You guys are killing me. Anywho, so a little bit about what we expect from our students. We want you guys to ask questions, feel comfortable, and message us. There's so many different ways you can contact us, and we're going to do our best to, be quick about it. Depending on when you reach out to us, like if you email me at 2 a.m., there's a good chance I might not reply. We might have my computer off, or might be sleeping. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I sleep. Sleep is good. Never gonna get anything done. No, but anyway. So yeah, ask away. We're gonna reserve some time at the end of the session. If you guys have questions about anything, and if we don't have, if you say you have another question, the platform. Sleeping is not a crutch. It's good. It is good for us. All right, so we're going to be making some presentations, and there's going to be a couple of different things that you can use. You can use PowerPoint, Keynote, and if I'm not mistaken, Tika, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have access to Office 365, and you should have received some kind of an email notification about that. And there's also something on the 365s that'll give you PowerPoint, that'll give you Word, and if you hate that kind of stuff, you can explore Prezi. Prezi is pretty neat. Check out your email announcements. Check that out as well. If there's still nothing there, you'll need to contact your student advisor. So I mentioned this because when you're constructing your presentations, you're going to be looking for some images, some cool images, some high quality images. And there's a couple of places that you can look. There's creativecommons.org. There's, what is it, archive.org, commons.org. Let's see, there is AP Images on the Full Sail Library. And that is free to you guys, but within the next week, just explore these avenues and just check out what's there. And it's gonna be handy to know that you have these resources at your fingertips. You would be surprised. .com, which you can get free through the Full Sail Library. So lynda.com, it's free to all students. If you navigate to the online Full Sail Library and you check out the library, video tutorials on just about anything you can possibly imagine. Like if you want to know how to build a good PowerPoint, go to lynda.com. If you want to learn how to build a cool keynote presentation, lynda.com has got some excellent really handy tool. I know a lot of people, I myself, were kind of like Lynda junkies. I mean, it's just really handy if you're in a pinch and you don't find anything on YouTube, which not but a lot of times YouTube has some garbage on it, as I'm sure you've noticed, right? But anyhow, yeah, it's definitely check it out. Check out Lynda, check out YouTube, and start. All right, so let us see here. Now I have this in here for one purpose alone, for assignments, for graded assignments, like when you're posting to the discussion board. We do expect college level writing standards. During this chat session right now, I don't care if you guys write shorthand. I don't care if you guys write fragments, as long as I know what you're talking about. But yeah, whenever you write something on a discussion board or for an assignment, a graded assignment, just make sure you proofread your work. A lot of writing programs out there, they have spell check, and it sounds. I don't want anybody to have points taken off for constant lowercase i's in an assignment and in a graded assignment. But in the chat box, I don't mind. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Devin, for that. That's spellcheck.net. There's so many resources out there, it's not even funny. There's a ton. Yeah, it's spellcheck. All right, moving right along. So professionalism, we mentioned this because we want everybody to, have a high degree of professionalism. And there's this thing called GPS. Whoops, I went too fast. With 100 GPS points. Global professionalism standards. Now, the way that this came about, this was derived from our our full sail administration and executives. They met with some of the some big deal players industries, all over the place, and we talked to their leaders, to their CEOs, and we just talked to them kind of like, what are some of the things that you look for in a candidate and in an employee? And they basically said the same. We want a strong work ethic. We want professionalism, in the workplace, punctuality, um, uh, all those things that we often take for granted. So we want us all to get into the habit of maintaining those ready to take the industry by storm, right? And we're not going to be surprised by anything. So just something to keep in mind. Okay. Distracted by Ryan's message. Yes. I see that a lot. I'm guilty of that sometimes, not all the time. Anyway, so we're going to have some assigned reading. Resonate and Slideology. These are two great, excellent books. Hopefully ready. Now, there's a couple of different reasons why we chose these books. One of them is because they're not simple, kind of like, all right, here is how you select a slide. Here is how you click this button. No, it goes beyond that, and so much as that it's more than just a slideshow. It's more than just a bullet point show, because that is often very boring. That is often the number one way to lose an audience. So, one way to look at a presentation is to look at it like you would kind of decorate a room. Like if somebody gave you a couple grand to decorate your room, you wouldn't just and they said, all right, here's some money, and you have to decorate your room. You would think about it. You would say, okay, this of it is common sense, but a lot of it, as you will read, begin to discover in these books, it is not. Color has a major impact on the audience, on what they think, on how they feel about the content. So to think about as you're reading, as you're constructing your own presentations. All right, pictures as well. There's that cliche. The picture can tell 1,000 words. It's cliche, absolutely, but don't just throw in some clip art into your presentation. Look for a picture that's going to make a strong impact. That's going to make your audience think, and usually those are high quality, images. So yes. Nancy Duarte, the author of these books, she's a major CEO and a major player in the presentation kind of field. She is responsible for turning many of these corporations and companies that oftentimes these companies, they are not doing so well based upon their brand, because their brand is outdated, because their brand just doesn't reach the audience. But this Nancy Duarte, she kind of like helped All the difference. Cool. All right, and this, my friends, is Nancy Duarte. I would strongly recommend checking out the on TED Talks. There's a number of presentations by Nancy Duarte. Her presentations, you'll get it. You'll understand. She's a natural. She's a born presenter, but you'll also learn, about her style. That she's not just like getting up there and spitting out facts. Yeah, she's getting up there. She's up there. And one thing that really kind of like, you know, kind of turned me around as far as like, I was totally sold on why she's good. Like one of her presentations, she talks about the content, and she talks about she includes until the very end of the presentation when she opened up about herself, where she kind of talked about, all right, this is me. I'm human, and I had this all these things happen to me. That was where it really connected with me, because for a lot of us, you know, we'll watch your share of TED Talks, and as you will see, as you'll discover for yourself, a lot of TED Talks are better than others. I can appreciate the content in these TED Talks. It was just, maybe it was the delivery, maybe they were a little stiff in their presentation. There's a couple of things that factor in what makes a good presentation, and that is one of the things that kind of like we're looking for. Checking out these TED Talk videos for the was it the 1.4 assignment, professional presentation analysis assignment. Cool. All right, so I talked a little bit about that, and change. And I say that because I want you to look at yourself in that light. That a lot of times the best artists out there, they they stay great, they stay excellent because their music that may remain the same, but you know overshadowing them and kind of surrounding their music, there is change. They have evolved. The greatest bands out there, they evolve. From your Beatles to your Led Zeppelin to your how they evolved and how their music changed, but there was something about them that still remained the same as well. No pun intended there. But I want you to have that attitude. I want you to think about, I learn, be myself. There's going to be a point where you will have to compromise a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to change who you are. Stick to your guns for sure, but it's good, it's healthy. It'll be more diverse. Alrighty, cool. Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Devin. Yeah. There's so many bands out there that they share that same quality as well. Whoops, sorry about that Admiral Akbar thing. I have that slide in there because I want you to think about it's a trap. When you're making your presentation, maybe you had a class where you had to like sit before a presentation, watching another group's presentation or watching somebody else's presentation, and you felt trapped. But, why did you feel trapped? You might have felt bored, actually, and how to develop them. You're not going to get their attention by making fancy transitions. When I'm grading your presentations, I'm not going to be like, oh, he's got no fancy transitions. there's no is an engaging image or quote. You know, that's sometimes all it takes. It really is. So we want you to keep an eye on that when you're watching these presentations, these TED Talks. Alrighty. Anybody want to kind of agree or disagree? I think one of the biggest, I was watching some of your comments boards, and let me just put everybody's mind at ease. You will not be standing in front of a live audience for your presentation. Okay, everybody exhale. There's I'm not kidding. Eddie would not kid about that. Here's the thing. In week 3, you don't have to worry about this right now, but in week 3, all you're going to be doing is construct presentation tool of choice. And you'll be recording a narration, an audio narration. So you don't even have to videotape yourself. All you're going to be doing is making a slideshow. So you'll be throwing and recording yourself, basically talking about yourself. It's essentially a pitch. You'll be pitching yourself, but yeah, I'm not going to go into more detail about that because I don't want to worry anybody. The only reason why you're not going to be in front of an audience making a live presentation. Cool. It kind of is a sales pitch, Peter. Yeah, it kind of is. But yeah, like I said, I'm not week and week 3 is all about. And yeah, actually, now that you mention it, who was it that mentioned it? Somebody mentioned getting a mic. Sorry, that comment just flew by. I don't. You don't have to go out there and get a Neumann, mic or some kind of $1,000. I've seen mics run as little as $6. You can get them online. You can kind of and even your cell phone, smartphones usually have like a little microphone that you could record on your phone and then transfer that MP3 to your computer, whatever. And we'll talk about that in later detail. All right, here's talking about images. I wanted to kind of like give you an example of how dramatically an image can be affected by its content and vice versa. I'm going to show you a slide with a quote against it, and I want you guys to tell me what you think. I'm going to show you a couple of them, and the background is going to be different, but the quote will remain the same. All right, hang in there. So I want you to. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. And Mr. Socrates said that. Actually, it's Socrates, but I like to say Socrates. It is Bill and Ted, indeed. All right, here we go. Background number 1. All right, same quote, but check out this background, right? Education is the kindling of a flame. Okay, so now that all right, we got one description, fancy, yes. I don't disagree with you, Mike. All right, now check this background out. Same quote. Check out Andrew, powerful. I got a couple of, yes, I totally agree. Emotional. Delta, you think it fits the feel of the quote better? Sheena said that. Cool. Very nice. All right, so the first one, what do you guys think about this one? I mean, what about this one? Same quote. Comedic, absolutely, absolutely. Satirish. Yeah, excellent. These are great responses. I got lighter, I got comedic, I got enjoyable, comical. Right? Okay, so anyway, my point is, I just want you guys to see what how a quote, how you really have to think about what you display and how you choose your backgrounds because it but not another. It could reach a small audience, but not a larger audience, and that's very important thing to think about. Aaron, absolutely, I would say that this one is more kind of highbrow, more philosophical. Favorite because as you guys mentioned earlier, that I saw a lot of people saying it's emotional, it's powerful, right? You know, and what I like about this one is it kind of tells a short story, a very brief story about this. You know, it's gonna reach a larger audience, so that's one thing that you have to think about constantly. Absolutely, Ryan. Picture is worth 1,000 words. You have to think about your demographic. You have to think about not just reaching one select group, but so much the better. So much the better. Right? Cool. And this one is just has a lighter tone. It absolutely is, as one of you guys mentioned, it's silly, it's kind of comedic, it's comical. It goes so well with the quote. You can kind of pinch it too and force it to, but I think the second one is definitely still my favorite. So a couple of things are to get the story factor down for your presentation and the way that you approach your presentation. Never just wing it. Never just get up there and start improvising. That is terribly difficult to do. And you might get lost and disinterested as well. Everything, you should have a plan. And when we get more into the in week 2, where you're going to be developing an assignment based on where you're going to be kind of answering a lot of questions here, like what challenges might I have for my presentation? What presentation tool am I going to use? So these are questions that you'll have to answer in detail. Construct your presentation. So it's an important thing to do. It really is. However you want to, whatever thing you're working on, whether it's a film, whether it's a story, you should have a blueprint. And sometimes you might deviate. Even life in general, it's just a good idea. And you can see exactly where you need to go. You can see what you've done, what you've achieved, and it really is inspiring to see what you've accomplished. And really, really need to do that. Okay. So, as I mentioned, your presentation needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, like most great film. films that don't necessarily follow a linear pattern, like a straight line from beginning to end. When it boils down to it, when you start analyzing the film, it does have beginning. Even though the beginning might be the end, that's the beginning. They're great examples of that. Or if you're reading the story, it would be Memento Mori. So think about that when you're constructing your presentation. That's essential. Don't get too absolutely, Michael. Pulp Fiction is. Thank you for. There's so many great examples out there. All right. So as you're checking out presentations for your 1.4 assignment, and as I mentioned, Tika's going to be talking to you guys. Mind, I want you to be thinking about when you're listing out your top 10 qualities for a good presentation. Be thinking about, all right, why was that effective? Why was that not effective? Were they kind of dry? That they just, what really made their presentation work? Were they funny? Did they have great stories? That kind of deal. So be thinking about that. The more you get into your TED Talk presentations. Some people are just born presenters. Some people are not. Are we allowed to give negative criticisms about the TED videos? Absolutely. I mean, Aaron, definitely be be specific. Yeah, and this goes for for your mates or when you're checking out their presentations. Don't just say, "Dude, that sucks." Tell them what could be better about it, or say, I'll give you an example. I was watching this one presentation. Her presentation, it's on TED Talks if you want to check it out. It's called "How I Overcame My Mortal Fear of of Public Speaking." Megan Washington, "How I Overcame My." Great presentation. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into why I think it's a great presentation. Why she's very sincere. She has an even though she's not a born presenter, she um, issue, and it's hindered her for a big portion. It's been a huge kind of crutch in her life. But anyway, she learned how to overcome it, and one of the ways that she learned how to overcome it was, she's very funny. She's absolutely hilarious, but she's very compassionate and very honest. And but one of the things that's just absolutely amazing about it is the end of the presentation, she gets up and sits behind this grand piano, and she just song, not one stutter in the song. It was just amazing. Absolutely, just kind of blew my mind. But anyway, that was why I thought it was great. Notice how I didn't just say it was great, but I, I encourage you to just give good feedback. Tell me why you think a presentation was good, why you think it's bad. It was good because they were good, great storytellers. It was good because they actually had a good slideshow, that kind of thing. So be thinking about that. Anywho, um, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Miss Tika Hicks so she can talk to you guys and gals more about. Thank you, everyone, for your insight, for your comments. I'm going to do my best to answer all these questions as well. Tika will as also. So anyway, give me 1 minute while I hand over the microphone. Thank you all so much.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, no pressure. So, hope that the audio is better on my end. I think Eddie might have been in a weird location. Um, there was like background, people in background I could hear. Um, so, hopefully, this will be, yeah, awesome. A little bit better for you. Thank you, Matthew. So yeah, what I want to go ahead and do now is just talk about the assignments. Um, I'm going to show you some examples of the TED Talk assignment. So that should give you a good idea of what we were looking for. And I'm only going to show you like the A ones, of course. I'm not going to show you the bad ones, like the ones that I think these are actual student examples. They just did a stellar job, in my opinion. And if you can follow their examples, no plagiarizing, please, but just see what we are looking for. I think this will help you out. But before I show you that, I want to just talk about the discussion for a minute because your discussion is the 1.3 activity. It's due tonight. So if you haven't been in discussion board yet, definitely go in there and look at the instructions, which I have right here pulled up, um, and answer those questions that are provided on page 2. So ideally answer as many as you can. What we want to see is that you talk about your level of comfort delivering presentations, how you feel right now about it, maybe how you felt in the past, and maybe what you've learned from the past. Um, and a lot of people, they say they're nervous, and that's perfectly fine. Feel free to share that. This discussion board, we're learning from each other and helps you feel better when you hear other people's comfort level. Let you know that you're not the only one that may be a little bit nervous about presentations or public speaking. So just got your level of comfort right now. Be honest. Even if you're totally confident, you could say that too. If you're not confident, just be honest. And then also talk about a specific public speaking experience you had in the past and what you learned from it. So this public speaking experience doesn't have to be a very formal, like getting up in front of the class or an audience of people, and you're behind the podium and you're trying to deliver a presentation or a speech. It can be any other type of experience, such as maybe a job interview, any type of experience where you've had to basically make a presentation in front of someone else. That will work just fine. But traditionally, students will talk about experiences they've had in their schooling, like in middle school, junior high, high school, or people that already went to college before. They've had some college courses and you had to take a public speaking course. Maybe you could talk about a time where you had to do the assignment for public speaking and talk about what you learned from it. So, did you mess up somewhere? Did you realize you should have had a visual aid, or maybe you talked too fast? Whatever it may be, and talk about what you learned from that experience, or maybe you learned something positive, like you did better than you thought you did. Your audience is there to help you out, and they're not so scary after all. And also talk about maybe you had a visual presentation as well, where basically you have like a PowerPoint, keynote, or maybe even like a poster board, but some sort of visual. Or maybe you can think about show and tell. If you had that experience in elementary school, like here's my, science fair project or something, like something visual where you have to have that be your aid. Talk about what you learned from that as well. And then finally, don't forget to talk about because we want to hear your opinions, your thoughts. What would you like to learn from this class? And what do you think you need to improve upon when delivering presentations? So again, this is all your opinion, just totally you. We just want to hear your thoughts. But make sure that you address everything so you get the full amount of points possible. So all of this is due tonight. Um, so make sure you go to the 1.3 discussion board and answer these questions. and then come back in the discussion board later. You have until Sunday to come back. You can enter the discussion board anytime as long as it's open, and make a reply post to your classmates. You want to talk to your classmates, read their discussion posts, and then give some feedback. Maybe you could provide some reply posts that are supportive, maybe constructive, supportive comments like, hey, I agree with you, I've had that experience too, those kind of things. Or maybe something where you're asking them questions like, if you think that they missed something that they need to, excuse me, that they need to expand upon, you can, probe each other and ask questions like, hey, I'd like to learn more about your experience doing this. Can you tell us more about that? Don't be afraid to kind of help each other out with your reply posts. Also look at the RISE model that's included in the discussion for more information on how you can give good feedback. So that's really it for the discussion posts. Um, so if you happen to miss the discussion post today, you can still post. So if you ever have to work or something today and you miss posting it today, you can still post. You'll just lose like 10 points off the top from your grade. But just because you missed it on Wednesday doesn't mean that you can't post. So definitely go back and make a post. Whether it's late or not, just go ahead and do it. Um, it's better to be late than don't do it at all. I mean, you need as many points as you can get. Um, so let's see here. I may have missed some things in the chat, but hopefully Eddie, got your back. Okay, I think he answered some of your questions. All right, so that is the discussion. And so now for the meat of this week, the assignment, the TED Talk. So what you need to do, this picture always bugs me because it's got this face. For some reason, he looks so like he's smiling, like he's in pain. I don't know why, but he's like not very, comfortable. um, but yeah, and I love this quote here. Um, by Maya Angelou. And that's one thing to think about when you watch a presentation is how it made you feel. Because whether or not you really learn from the presentation, hopefully you do learn from watching these TED Talks, but if they make you walk away feeling better about yourself or better about the world or just somehow some sort of positive emotion, um, the presentation, did a great job then. If you could think back and go, hey, that talk by Sir Ken Robinson made you feel a lot better about education or whatever you may find. But anyway, so page 2, the instructions. So what we want you to do is analyze 3 TED Talks. So minimum of 3. I've only had students do 3. So you have to do at least 3 TED Talks. Watch 3 TED Talks and then answer these questions. And you don't have to have the questions listed, but that will be, you can do that if you want to. Make sure you answer these questions in your analysis. And this is all your opinion, but just make sure that you answer these questions about why you think this is powerful and moving. Like something must have sparked you to click on the link to watch it. So something about it must have resonated with you. So you want to talk about why you wanted to watch it, what made it interesting to you. Why did you like the presentation? Was it the content? After you actually watched it, did the content move you, or was it how the speaker delivered the content? Because sometimes different people can talk about the same thing and deliver it totally differently, and it can have a different appeal, a different effect based off of the delivery. So something to keep in mind is how they delivered it. How they draw you in to care about the subject? Did they use emotions? Did they use logic like statistics and facts? So answer all these questions for step 1 and do that for each of them. And then, it's actually step 1, step 2, I think are basically the same. What you want to do now is after you've answered those questions, put that step 2, you want to put that in a document. Put those answers in a document, and it could be a Word document. Like it says here at the bottom, use a tool familiar with you for this assignment. Oops, I highlighted everything. So this tool could be a Word document. It could be PowerPoint, or it could be, if you have a Mac, Keynote, Prezi, or even an online free tool. Like there's Google Drive, there's OneDrive, a student did Canva once, and if you haven't heard of that before, I'm going to type it in the chat. It's free to use. So there's canva.com. So if you like create an account, you can click on the presentation option, and that's a cool way to get like a fancy creative template. So you can click on, probably want to do the free one because we don't want you to pay for anything more than you already are doing by enrolling here. Um, but click a design and start typing away, whatever you want to do. But you can just use Word. Word is totally fine for me. No need to go too fancy. Just do what's most familiar to you so you can get the assignment done. That's the main thing. We're mainly looking for the content, seeing that you answered the questions, and providing some visual elements, like basically we're looking for images of some sort. It could be photographs of the TED Talk presenters. It can be screenshots you take of the presentations that you're watching. It can be like an image or drawings that represent the topics they're talking about, but it has to be some sort of visual included so that it's not just an essay with, nothing visual added. So yeah, so you're going to do a visual, and you're going to answer, you're going to probably answer step one into your document. Um, Explain what worked, what did not, and then you're going to provide 10 qualities, techniques, and/or presentation skills that you observe that make them inspiring, captivating, creative, etc. Um, and this can be a list. Ideally, it should be a list. You want to see, they don't have to be numbered, but they should be at least 10. And you want to talk about specific examples from those talks that backs up your list of qualities or techniques. So here's some examples here. Like, the speaker opened the presentation with a question. Like what Eddie did today, this morning. He opened it up with a question about, how many of you have tattoos? That's one technique, that you could use, or that these speakers used, that they have used to get the audience's attention. And he said, "Don't copy me." Or the speaker closed the presentation with a question or a call to action. That's something a lot of them tend to do, is that they'll, maybe if it's not a question, they may just leave with a statement that leaves you thinking, and provide an example of that. And so when you list these qualities, not all three of them don't have to be provided. Maybe only one of the TED Talks had this type of technique, and maybe a different TED Talk had this one. As long as you provide a specific example, only one or two is fine. But ideally, maybe this quality could be across the board, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be the case for all of them. Maybe at least one. It has to be at least one. So I think that is it really for the assignment. So I have an example to show you. I have two that I have ready for you. So let me get rid of this. Okay. So here's one of my students did recently. I would say he was an overachiever, but this is still awesome. So here's what he did. And since these are student examples, I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to send out the links to these. But this is going to be recorded, so you can just come back and look at this and pause so you can have this sink in. So what he did, so this first one, he has the questions here, which is fine. It helps us see that you actually answered the questions, and he wrote a lot. So he answered the questions, and he has analysis over there to the right. And basically you can choose any type of talk you want to talk about or watch. So it doesn't have to be something related to your industry. Like if you're here for, say, music, you don't have to, you do have only speakers that talk about music. Like here, this talk was about something scientific like DNA. So whatever you're interested in, that's perfectly fine. So yeah, I want you guys to step your game up. Um, so that's why I'm showing you like the best of the best. So I'm gonna try to go real slow. He has like 10 pages, so it's crazy. But I want to scroll down to where he has the list of qualities so you can see how that looks like. So hopefully not going too fast. I don't want to get, everybody get all, dizzy. So I'm gonna scroll down a bit, slowly, slowly. I'm gonna get there. All right, a Word document is fine. And it's fine if it's sloppy right now. You can definitely, you still have time to refine it, edit it, make it fancier. It's only Wednesday, so and it's not due to a Sunday. All right, so here are the 10 qualities that he listed. So I like that he has them bolded, numbered, and I like that he was specific about what type of thing this is, like a technique or a quality. Um, and this one doesn't have for the first one, there's no specific example, which is something I would have preferred for all of them. But this one, I like, he does actually have a specific example from one of the talks, for the plain English explanation. Multimedia journey. I like that, mentioning storytelling. That's one of the things we talk about in this class is storytelling, and resonate. That's so important. Common ground, the big idea, which is a concept in the reading. So big idea, resonate, sparkline. So we're also looking for concepts from the reading in your writing as well. So concept like the sparkline and talking about, if the presentation talk about what is and what could be, like talking about basically the current state of the world or the current state of the industry or whatever it is, and talking about what could be, like, what could be better, what the world could be like, or whatever it is they're talking about could be like if their idea is adopted. Call to action is a big one. Resonance. So that's his presentation or his TED Talk analysis is 1.4. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what we're looking for. Um, and then here's another one, and this one is more image heavy. Like I like this one in that he has like images, as the background um, for each of his pages. So, but because they're image heavy, my computer is gonna take forever to load it all. But I like how this person organized it. It looks more like a handout or um, like something I would see like printed, like a brochure or something. So um, I think that's pretty neat. And one thing to consider if you do something like this is that make sure your text is readable. Like if, these images are dark, so he has white text. So that's something to consider. Make sure that all your information is easy to look at, and easy to read. So this person's talk, and not sorry talk, but the analysis. So they have a lot of information here, which is great. And I like the multiple images that they provided. So J.J. Abrams, a lot of students do J.J. Abrams. uh, People are loving him right now. I wonder why. All right, Chip Kid, awesome, awesome. All right, and then here's his Big Ten, which I like. Um, there's some common things I see with the other one, like connect with the audience, which is basically saying resonance, resonating with the audience. He lists, humor, props, body language, um, interacting with the audience. So yeah, it definitely looks like he did this in InDesign or something fancy. But so you don't have to do anything this fancy. Um, but if you can provide information as detailed as this, um, oh, and references, this would be great if you do, when you provide images, provide your links to where you got them from. That'd be great. Um, so I like that he has that at the end there. Um, so yeah, so his qualities aren't numbered, but I can obviously count 1 through 10 and see that he has them all there. So this is what we're looking for. So that's pretty much it. All right. So I think people are asking questions in the chat, and Eddie's on, and he's right on top of that, so that's awesome. So yeah, are there any questions? Any questions that may have been missed? You can copy and paste and type it in chat, and I'll try to answer you, or Eddie. Um, so yeah, Ryan, this is due Sunday, not Friday. So this is due Sunday, this coming Sunday, January 10th by 11:59 p.m. at the very latest Eastern Standard Time. I want to emphasize the time zone because it's going to be different depending on where you are in the country. So say if you're in California, it's going to be like 8:59 p.m. And a note about submitting your stuff on the platform, you want to submit your work early because like don't wait until like 11 o'clock because sometimes not obviously sometimes most people are doing the exact same thing, trying to upload something to the website, to the FSO website, and it's going to slow down the server, and you don't want your assignment to be in the process of uploading, and then it doesn't get uploaded because the server's trying to process everybody else trying to upload their work at the same time. Because it's not just this class, but like literally every other online class, and even some on-campus classes or students are trying to upload their work close to the deadline. So you don't want to be caught in that trap of like, oh no, it's 11:45 p.m. and it won't upload because it's just spinning and spinning and spinning or whatever because it's so late. So try to get your work in a couple of hours before the deadline. That'll help, I think, immensely. Um, let's see. Um, Someone asked a free site. What was the free site again? Eddie mentioned Prezi. I also mentioned Canva. Um, Canva is pretty cool. I haven't used it extensively. I've used it a couple of times to make like basic like one page handouts for personal purposes. But what's cool about this type of thing is that you can say use this, and then you can when you save it, it can save it as a PDF, so you can upload that to to the discussion board, not discussion board, I mean the 1.4 activity. Um, but yeah, there's Prezi, which is cool. If you do Prezi, I think there's a way to download that as well. Um, yeah, Canva is awesome. I also like to use Google Drive. So, for example, like here, I'm in my Google Drive, my Google account. Never mind my folders, but so click on New Google Sheets, or I actually do Google Slides. Google Sheets is an Excel version, but so Google Slides, easy. You can save it out as a PowerPoint and then upload it. You can choose a theme, just play around with it. It's basically a really watered down version of PowerPoint. So if for some reason you don't have anything on your computer to do stuff with, the internet is awesome. There's always something on the internet you can use. Um, so there's something, if you want to use something that we haven't mentioned, you're kind of cautious about it, and kind of not sure if you're going to take it or not, just run it by us. Ask us a question and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But I'm pretty open-ended. I'm like, I don't really care really as long as you can submit something that I can open it. um, that's like, that's just me. But yeah, I love Google Drive. And there's also OneDrive, which is Microsoft's answer to Google Drive, but basically it's an online free version of PowerPoint, which, if you have Office 65, but um, OneDrive is another way to have like a online version of PowerPoint. So you have to create an account, log in, and you'll see a PowerPoint option. All right. So we went a bit over the time. Um, so are there any questions that you want us to answer for you? Questions, concerns, before we close the session out? Um, any TED Talk? Yep, exactly, Delta. It could be any TED Talk you want to provide. Um, I'm kind of, I don't really mind what you use. Let's see here. 99 use another option, but for this assignment, just stick with TED. But um, in other assignments, you can use other websites. Um, so sometimes I know students they'll just still look at what's recent talks. We can also just search and find whatever topics you're interested in. So So yeah, 10 qualities altogether. Yeah, some students they think they might have to do 10 for each talk, but no, it's just 10 altogether. Um, you don't have to work so hard. um, if you're not sure what you want to look at, maybe look at this popular playlist, the most popular talks of all time. Um, a lot of students they tend to I see this a lot. Ken Robinson. I like Amy Cootie's Body Language Shapes Who You Are. But you don't have to use those. Whatever you want. So yeah, a lot of cool things in there. Some adult topics here. But and I love this one, The Power of Introverts. It's amazing. Because I am a current hearing introvert through and through, so this really speaks to me. So whatever speaks to you, feel free to, try to make this fun for yourself and watch something that you want to watch, um, and not just whatever. Like how to spot a liar. Maybe you want to learn how to do that, so that could be interesting. Um, so yeah. So yeah, like Eddie mentioned, if you came to the session late, you can find the announcement. You'll see an announcement later on today with a link to the recording. So no need to worry if you came in late. Um, so I think okay, last call for any questions. Last call. Questions, concerns, comments, complaints. All right. So if you do have any questions, you don't feel like you have to. You don't feel like you have to have something now, or or prepare hold your piece. Feel free to message us, email us if you have any questions. Like later on. All right. We won't leave you hanging. We're here to help you out. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close this session out and send this recording out as soon as possible. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us live. It was great to have you. It was great to see you guys in the chat, talking to each other, being funny, um, being awesome. All right, guys. Again, discussion's due today, and the project is due Sunday. All right. All right. Bye, everybody. Good luck with your assignments. And we'll see you this same time next week. All right. Bye, guys.